Всем привет еще раз. Так, ну я пока начну. В принципе,
So let me start. I'm in for biometrics, for the uniform biometric system, and honestly speaking, I love reading the comments on the net related to biometric
предположений о том, как
thingies. There are so many assumptions about how, in actual fact, biometric technology really works, and the more this technology develops,
используется, тем больше
the more frequently they use it, the more users start speaking about the assumptions, the fears related to this technology. And we very often face it not only there, but also offline, where people are concerned about the use of this technology. We took the top 3 rumors that I very often
измерили их количество
see.
для того, чтобы либо подтвердить, либо опровергнуть.
So we may want to approve of them or completely reject them. Let's consider them, for that matter.
Мы, собственно, выбрали 3.
In actual fact, we have selected 3 myths. The first one is related
что биометрия
to
работает
the fact that biometrics works only with the high quality data. If you've ever heard about the uniform biometry system, the legislation of the Russian Federation about the biometry is all about that biometric data can be stored in the uniform biometric system, like face, voice, and when they see the users that if it's sent to the uniform biometric system, people start getting concerned. What's the quality of these biometrics? How well was it collected? Because not always the people address the fact that they have been photographed for biometry, and their concern was about whether the quality of the biometric data is sufficient to recognize the data with high precision. And then this year we have this similar case. We normally work with this data, so the user is actually interested about getting this service. So the data that we get at the entry is of the high quality. First of all, at the entry, we have the quality control. There is a huge list of parameters that we test and verify. First of all, we see it regulated by law, and second of all, it provides high quality characteristics and takes algorithms of different vendors so that they can focus on a certain quality of data. So what was the case? Normally, when we provide this service, we photograph a person, and this photo goes for recognition. But that was a completely different case. It was it did not involve a person at being photographed. There was an interface with his picture and the QR code where the vector was included from his photograph, but not necessarily from the exact photograph on the screen. So when the train attendant wanted to check and verify that that was the exact user who bought the ticket, he used the mobile app with the photograph of the screen, however funny it sounds, and this picture will be sent for recognition. Normally, this photograph is of a very small size, but when we photograph that from the screen, different other artifacts would pop up. So the camera could not focus on the screen. There were fingers, there were cracks on the screen. So we decided to deploy that at the test. We decided to simulate all that so that we wanted that the biometrics would definitely work. We collected a certain set of photographs. We traveled to the train station, and we would collect photographs from morning till night. That's our scenario testing and how it was deployed. We had a pool of artifacts. We could not actually await from the user that the user would always try and get a high quality picture. We'd normally hold a phone in a different way. We cover the screen with fingers. There can be some light reflected on the picture. There may be dim lights, there may be cracks on the screen, etc. So we have collected a database which contains imposters and or original users. The imposters imitate those users who did not buy a ticket, but they would like to buy. I mean, pretend that they are the person who actually bought the ticket. And the real ones, that there are only two photographs. We analyzed the base and we ended up with the results. So it seemed that we ended with good results. No, not really. The results were very unsatisfactory. The Ministry of Digital Development has requirements for the precision of the photograph detection. Normally, the biological processor revealed the precision of the base, so we have this drop. Normally, the characteristics cannot be measured by the size of the base. But unfortunately, we ended up with 3% of the false positive, so that as an unregistered user, I will not get on board of the train with 1% allowed, but we had 3% instead. So the results were not accepted, it was rejected. So we thought, what would be the problem? The first idea was that we assembled a very poor quality database, so that we just need to limit the quality of the data assembled. They would have to select a high quality photograph, but it turned out to be wrong, that the algorithm we chose, and we did have limitations for the choice of the algorithm, because in the QR code, only a certain length of the vector could be squeezed in. It only includes an amount of data as much. So the vector was very small. It was 260 bytes only. That neural network could not meet the required characteristics requirements. So we thought it was about the quality, but no, it was not about the quality. This neural network very often makes errors with the people with the oriental appearance, Asian-looking people. We normally accumulate a database with the type of the people who live in the territory. They may belong to different age, they may belong to different nationalities. So in our database, we had no less than 30% of the people with Asian looks, and it affected the result, and we had a negative result. So we had two options. First of all, we could reject the results, or second of all, change the neural network. We took the final last version. We had the vector, which was 250 bytes in size, twice as much, and we managed to pull off the necessary characteristics, but we also enhanced the size of the base. The characteristics for proper distribution. So at the end of the charts, where we had the interests, we didn't have too many people left there. So the distribution was more either in the negative side or the positive side, less than one, which was not possible. So in order to evaluate this interval in a proper way, we increased the base and we moved from the proper distribution to binary distribution. We did meet the requirements of the laws and norms, and that testing was recognized successful.
Конечно, можно сказать, что да, этот кейс работает, но важно всегда
It's important that we remember
данные, тем лучше будет
that the higher quality of the data, the better the neural network
на каких данных
works. But it's important to take into account which kind of data it was trained on. So now we'll take
особенно в связи с тем, что периодически
the comparison of the twins.
близнец оплатил за своего брата или сестру
Sometimes the twin may pay for his brother or sister, twin brother and twin sister. And sometimes people are concerned when a person who looks very much like them may pay for the service instead of them, or a product for that matter. You know, Olaf Scholz met his twin, his double, Chris Quinn, at his meeting, and they made a photo where they both look very much alike. They posted it on the web, and very often they are called twins. They actively promote themselves with this twin-looking story. With the biometric tests and in terms of the evaluation of the attacks, there is an exact cluster of them biometric attacks. The passive imposter, when the imposter do not use any attack, but instead uses his own face, which is very much similar looking, and they are trying to find a loophole in the system. I tried to pass for someone else, actually not doing anything. Therefore, we decided to check whether this biometric technology is capable of telling the people. Most of the time, the inspection was carried to assemble the database. There is a lot of information on the web that the people very often confuse actors, like, for example, Jeff D. Morgan and Javier Bardem. Can people tell the difference? So one young person says there that there is no difference. They are the same.
Мне сложно с новыми лицами распознавать новые лица, скажем так. Вот. И когда мы смотрим, например, на этих двух актеров, они достаточно...
When we look at these two actors, they look alike. It's difficult to say why, but they really look alike. So you cannot tell one from the other. Accordingly, according to our test, we collected a database. The database consisted of lookalikes that were too many, which have too many common features to Mary and Chad Smith, if I'm not mistaken, the drummer from Red Hot Chili Peppers. They are awful mixed up. So in a cap, they cannot be differentiated. 262 unique pairs, twins. We put them through the bioprocessor, and we got about 6 pictures per person, plus minus. And we got the following. We took 6 bioprocessors, 1 open source inside Face, and 5 in the common biometric system. What did we see? The ideal biometric system gives you 0 errors, 0 false positives, and 0 in potential imposters. Ideally, the characteristics of the potential should go to the low left corner. But of course, we didn't see it in practice because of the depending on the threshold. If we try to reduce one thing, if we try to have maximum security, so we raise the number of false positives
график не
The
стремится
chart
к нашему желаемому результату, к
doesn't
нулю.
go any closer
Но при
to the
этом надо
desired
понимать, что если мы
target, which is
навсегда,
zero.
то есть это
But
утрированная ситуация, когда
of
в
course,
базе
this
только
is an
получить значение.
exaggerated situation
Если
when
мы
you
на
have
таких
only
данных пытаемся
lookalikes and
обеспечить
only
уровень
twins.
безопасности,
If
необходимый
at this
для
level you
нашей
want to
системы,
reach
то мы
the required
автоматически
security level,
задвигаем
we
порог
automatically
выше, чем
raise the
стандартный базе.
threshold
И
higher
в связи с
than
этим вот мы видим на
necessary.
таблице,
And
если
accordingly,
мы начинаем
in
поднимать
this
минус 4,
chart, if you
вероятность
raise
ложного
it to
совпадения, то есть вероятность того, что мы
10
пропустим
in
потенциального
minus
мошенника,
4
это
power,
приводит к тому, что мы автоматически
we
завышаем
automatically
вероятность того, что
exaggerate
наш
the
потенциальный клиент не пройдет. То есть
number
вы
of
видите, что
false
там
positives
процент отказа своему,
that the
порядка
legitimate customer
50%,
will be stopped, about
плюс-минус,
50% of
соответственно,
rejections.
50%
That's
наших
too
клиентов
much.
просто не получат услугу, и
Half of the
скажут, что мне это не
customers
надо, я
will
воспользуюсь
not
удобным
get
для меня сервисом.
the
Что,
service.
собственно,
And of
делать в
course,
этом
he will
случае?
go to the
В единой biometric
competition.
системе мы пользуемся
What are we going to
несколькими
do? We use
вариантами
several
нам
biometric
для того, чтобы
systems
обезопасить себя от такой ситуации. Первое, это,
to
конечно, у нас есть
secure
второй метод, он более
ourselves. We have the
простой, он более
second
дешевый.
factor,
У
the
нас это
simplest and
логин,
the
пароль,
cheapest,
например.
login and
Госуслуги, на
password.
самом деле, это может быть все что угодно,
And
карточка,
there can be anything,
какой-то
a
просто логин,
token, a
какой-то код
card,
и
a
так далее.
login,
Это
and
может
so
быть
on.
вторая какая-то
It may be
бесконечная
the
верификация.
second
Мы
biometric
сейчас работаем в этом
characteristic.
направлении.
We're
Если кто-то
working
хочет следить за
in this area.
законодательством в биометрии
If you
в России,
follow the
то знает, что с
legislation,
сентября этого
you know
года
that from
возможно
September this
расширение
year,
перечня модальностей, которые
the
будут
number of
отрабатывать свои биометрические
modalities
системы.
will be
Конечно, наиболее удобный
expanded.
для нас вариант и наиболее комфортный
And of
вариант для
course, the
пользователя
most
получается
convenient
в
for us
процессе
is to get
одного фотографирования сразу
in the
несколько
process
модальностей.
of
Это наиболее
one
комфортный вариант.
picture
Поэтому мы сейчас работаем
to
в этом
get
направлении,
several
чтобы добавить
modalities.
какую-то новую
We
модальность,
are
которая
working
позволит
to
нам
add new
различать
modality
людей,
that will
которые
help us
выглядят
differentiate with the
у них
people
похожи
which
лица, но
look
при этом какие-то другие
alike.
модальности различаются.
But there are some other modalities which are
Для
different.
сравнения, чтобы
To
было
compare,
понятно, что мы видим на
for you to
обычной базе,
understand
вот
what we
с
see in the
правой
usual database, on your
график на
right,
этих же точно
it's the
биометрических
chart
процессоров, на
with the
которых
same
представлены
biometric
специальные характеристики. На
processing
стандартной
with
базе
the operation
порядка
characteristics in the
4000
standard
указанных дней.
database,
На
about
графике мы видим
4,000
ту
unique
желаемую для нас
users,
картину,
unique
когда
entries,
вероятность ошибок, у большинства
and the
процессоров
probability of
стремятся
error
к нулю.
is
И,
much
соответственно, мы
closer
видим,
to
что на базе
zero
из двойников
than on
эта
your left.
вероятность отказа своему растет.
With the
В
twins,
сравнении
of course, the number of
стандартной базе.
false positives is higher, which is only
Поэтому
natural.
этот миф мы пометим как
So we
в
are
принципе
going
такое
to
возможно, учитывая
say
особенности этого
this
кейса.
might
И,
be
наверное, мой самый
possible
любимый
depending
миф,
on the situation,
это
and my
связанный и самый
beloved
интересный
myth
с
and the
гримом.
most interesting
Не
one
так
is
давно
makeup.
в таком телеграм-канале,
Makeup
который
is a
Biometric,
threat for
появился
biometrics.
пост о том, что
So there
талантливые
was a
гримеры — это
post
просто
that
глаза
talented
всех
makeup
разработчиков биометрических
specialists
систем. И
can
действительно, грим с точки зрения
resist
биометрики, с точки
biometrics.
зрения
From the point of view
рисков,
of
которые существуют в
biometrics,
биометрии, входит в перечень
makeup
атак,
is
которые
one of the
должны
possible
рассматриваться. И все
attacks that
началось
can
вот
be
с этого видео.
regarded. So everything started with this video.
Кто-то узнал героиню?
So did you recognize the person? Okay.
Все смотрят Гарри Поттера, да, я тоже смотрю
Harry
Гарри
Potter.
Поттера, поэтому для
Yes, I
нас,
loved
для тех, кто
Harry
смотрел
Potter as
этот
well.
фильм, не такая большая
And
проблема
if you
узнать,
watched it,
кто,
you
собственно,
can
скрывается за
realize
этими
who is
гримами.
who. But it's all
Но вот
makeup.
если мы посмотрим на
If we
грим
look
от
at
этого же,
the
от этой же
makeup
девушки,
of the
как
same
вы думаете, на кого
person,
этот грим?
so what do you think?
Первая учительница
Who is
той
that?
девушки?
The first teacher of that girl?
Ну, да, возможно. А если на более
Yes,
известную личность?
possibly. What about
Роза Сабитова,
celebrities?
Набиуллина. Я бы
Роза
сказала, вот еще
Sabitova,
есть вариант.
Nabiulina, who else?
Что, простите?
Who?
Да, вот Лаура, Альберт.
Oh, yes,
Мы все эти три варианта
Laura.
получили. Первый, естественно,
Yes,
самый
three
популярный
of
был
them.
связан с
Yes, of
Набиуллиной
course. The
и
first
Розой
one is
Сабитовой. Но так
Nabiullina
как я
and
не
Rosa
смотрю
Sabitova.
телевизор практически,
Since
то
I'm
о
not watching
существовании
TV,
Лауры
I
Альбертовны я не имела
didn't
никакого
know
понятия,
anything
а
about
это
Laura
именно
Albertovna,
она.
whoever she
Но
is,
мне
but
кажется,
this
что
is her.
она больше
This
все-таки на
is she.
Набиуллину похожа. И
But
большинство голосов,
I
когда она
love
спрашивает,
the
именно было за
governor
либо
of
Розу
the
Сабитову, либо
National Bank of
Набиуллину.
Russia, Nabiullina.
Да.
She looks like her.
Так вот, на самом деле в сети достаточно много
So
людей,
in the
которые
network,
активно занимаются
you
тем,
have a lot of
что
people
гримируют
who
себя под известных людей.
create
Естественно, чем
their
популярнее
own makeup,
личность, тем
trying
лучше на
to look
него
like
попыток сделать
a
грим. То
certain
есть у нас
celebrity.
было
The more
порядка из
popular a person
15
is, the more
фотографий
makeup
Леди
lookalikes you may
Гаги.
find.
Естественно,
About
чем
15
менее популярен
pictures of
сериал,
pseudo
например, или чем
Lady
менее
Gaga,
популярен человек, тем меньше на него
and
попыток
the less
пародии.
popular a
Так
person
вот,
is,
у нас
the
было порядка
less makeup attempts you have. We have
260
about
уникальных людей в базе.
260
Все это
unique
были
persons
загримированные
in the
люди. Естественно, мы
database,
взяли фотографию
makeup
живого
persons.
человека, под
We
которого
took
этот
a
грим
real
сделан.
picture
Так
of
важно
a
понимать,
real person,
что не нужно пытаться грим
which
определять
an
так
imposter
называемым
tried
likeness.
to imitate.
Многие компании, когда пытаются
Many
выбрать
companies, when
биометрическое
they
решение,
try
думают, что
to
от всех
choose a
атак на
biometric
биометрию
person,
поможет likeness
believe
от
that
дипфейков, от
likeness
грима и так далее.
can
Нужно понимать, что
help
likeness,
to
так называемая
disclose
проверка того,
makeup,
что перед камерой находится живой человек, заточен под одну
makeup
конкретную функцию — проверить,
likeness
что перед
test.
камерой находится живой человек.
Yes, the
Когда мы
likeness
говорим грим,
test shows you
естественно, это
that
живой
this
человек,
is a
likeness в
live
этом случае не
person.
срабатывает.
If a person has
Потенциальные
makeup
клиенты, которые
on
хотят
top,
внедрить у себя
then
биометрию,
he is
очень
alive.
расстраиваются. Как же
And
так?
the
Наша
alive
личность не
test
работает.
doesn't
Ваше
disclose
поведение
makeup.
неприменимо
Yes,
для
the likeness test
систем. Но,
doesn't help
опять
in
же,
this
важно
case.
понимать, что liveness
And you have
заточен
to
под конкретную
realize that
функцию, определить, что перед
likeness
камерой
has
не
one
фотография,
function.
не
It's not a picture,
не экран
it's
телефона,
not
не дисплей
a
ноутбук,
screen,
не что-то
not a
другое,
notebook,
не
not
3D-маска. А под грим
DS,
по-хорошему
not a
проще всего
PC.
использовать
This is a
просто
live
алгоритм
person.
верификации, потому
You
что
can use instead a
этот человек,
verification
который
algorithm
загримирован, он
because the
должен в
person
абсолютной
with
точности быть
makeup
похож на
should
того
in
человека, под которого
principle
он гримируется.
look like a person that he or she tries to
Поэтому мы
imitate.
собрали базу, и, казалось
So
бы,
we
мы видим
collected
здесь, как я сказала,
populated a
плохие инвестиционные
database,
характеристики.
and
Они
we
не стремятся в
say
ноль.
we
Но
see
на самом
bad
деле это,
results,
наоборот,
far away
теперь
from
обратная
zero.
ситуация. У нас
But the
должно быть
situation
вероятность
here
ложного
is opposite.
несовпадения, то есть того, что гример не похож на
The
искомого
person with
человека,
makeup
максимально большой.
should
То есть
not
грим должен быть настолько
look like
неправдоподобен,
a
чтобы
person
потенциальный гример не получил
that he
услугу.
tries to imitate.
Поэтому в этом случае мы,
That is
конечно,
why
ожидаем, что графики
we
будут, наоборот,
expect that the
направлены в нижний
charts
угол.
will
И, собственно, это мы и увидели.
tend to
В
go
связи
to
с
the
этим
top
можно сделать
right
вывод о том,
corner.
что фактически
The more the better.
такой грим
And we can
именно
say that
скорее
makeup
любительский, не связанный с какими-то изменениями
is not
пропорций лиц. То есть мы не говорим здесь о
professional,
гриме
is
с
it's
использованием
an
каких-то
amateur
силиконовых штучек, которые
attempt.
меняют
So I'm not talking
структуру
about
лица.
silicone
Мы говорим
uh,
с помощью каких-то косметических
applications that change the general
средств.
form of a
Он
human
не
face. Just
результативен с
small
точки зрения
makeup,
атак на
cosmetic
систему. Но,
tools.
естественно, у грима есть
Cosmetic
различные
tools are not
способы. Если это
very
более
efficient
профессиональный грим,
in
как, например,
attacking.
делают
Of
с
course,
гримом,
if
то
a
это уже другой
professional
уровень, это уже другой инструмент
creates your
атаки.
makeup,
Его необходимо
this may
тестировать
be
вне как
a
раз-таки, если это,
tool, an
например,
attacking
полностью
tool.
силиконовые накладки
If
на
it's a
лицо, он
fully
может
silicone
помочь так
face,
называемый liveness.
yes, uh, it may be efficient.
Когда мы встречаемся с
And
мифами,
if
они
we
зачастую, конечно, мы
see different
более
kind of
логичны. То есть
myths,
люди
they may
способны
be
воспринимать
logical,
наши аргументы, они способны
and people can
признавать о
argue,
том, что
people
их
can
страхи, их
admit that
возможные
their
страхи перед рисками, которые несет
risks, their imagined risks are not true and can be ignored. We talk to them, we tell them how biometric systems work, they listen to us, but sometimes the myths are so absurd and illogical that people are not ready to listen to counter arguments because they just believe, they trust their point of view, and they reject all logical arguments. In that case, the situation cannot be changed because the person is not ready to listen to you. So we take the fourth myth, and we love it. When you register in a biometric system, so you get a barcode on your forehead. Of course, in social media, you can hear it from time to time, sometimes often. And recently, I watched a video when a person wanted to get a plastic card. A picture was taken. In the process, he came home, looked at himself with the ultraviolet light, and then he saw a barcode on his forehead, blue and green. Well, I had biometry and I re-registered it just to test. This is a process of picture making.
И вот уведомление у меня на госуслугах о том, что у меня есть действующая биометрия. На самом деле,
I have a notification that I have biometry. I can do it in the bank if necessary. I can do it through a mobile application in the bank, and the bank sent it to United nationwide biometric system. Of course, I bought an ultraviolet torch.
видите,
And as you can see, no barcodes.
можно.
And to conclude, I wanted to say that any technology has its risks, especially new technologies which is actively developing, which raises the number of users. But very often, these are not the true risks. Real risks can be quite different from popular perception. Because the risks are monitored, the people try to hack, and then they always try to be one step ahead. And the developers want to be one step ahead of the hackers. So, thank you very much. Thank you. We have some time for scanning the Q code. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. Biometry is always very interesting because people and technologies are mixed here. Please tell me, do you have an example of, well, of most non-trivial cheat of a biometric system, according to your experience or in literature? Right now, at the biometric system that are used in Russia, we don't see any growth of the number of attacks. Many developers who introduce biometry, we don't see any growth of the number of attacks, because the simplest thing is social engineering. You don't have to do anything, and that is enough. Perhaps in future, in the near future, maybe, because the attack technologies, cyber criminal technologies also develop, and we may see some growth of attacks. But now social engineering is the most popular. The bottleneck is social engineering. People, not technologies. Questions, please. Let me remind you that you can use this bot. The first one, thank you very much for your presentation. And what about voice? Voice is not very often used for biometric authentication, but voice stealing cases, I heard about them. Yes, we use voice, and in many call centers, we use voice for authentication, but in the common united biometric system, voice is not the main differentiator. It's the second modality for face. If, for example, you have to differentiate between the twins, voice raises the precision of authentication. But now we have technologies of voice synthesizing, voice synthesis. It makes voice authentication more and more difficult. However, such technologies are not focused on the Russian language, but we expect the same in Russia as well. What is easier to steal, voice or face? I think face, because we publish a lot of our own faces in social media. If we don't do that, our friends do that. They say they publish our pictures. So it's too late. We have too many pictures in open access in social media. Let's go to technologies. Where do you use neuro technologies, and what did you do for automatic machine learning? Look, in the common biometric systems, we are not teaching neural networks. It's difficult. It requires a lot of resources, human and financial, and you need a lot of hardware, databases, and the people who will do the job. It's much easier for us to ensure independence and use neural networks and bioprocessors of third-party vendors. We do not teach neural networks. Do you know any neural network architecture which is better? For example, I want to create super biometry. Where do I have to go? Are there any clones? Well, the simplest area is to go to GitHub and see who has more stars. Who? I don't know. Inside face, maybe. All right. Thank you for the answer. Next question, please. It's about twins. A person asks a question. What is the share of twins in your data set? In the data set used in the second test, we had 262 persons, 30% were twins.
Путают обычные люди, соответственно, вся оставшаяся часть, 70%
the rest,
прошу прощения, близнецы.
No, sorry, 30% lookalikes and 70% twins. Yes. Then one more question. There are biometric vectors. Can you restore a picture of a person with their help? Yes, anything is possible, but there are some limitations. we have some figures, data, vectors. It was created by a neural network. If we change the neural network, so those figures will lose their value. We shall need a different set of vectors. So first of all, you have to realize that you need the network which created those vectors and not anything else. And you generate a face, you put it in the network and see what is the score. So that's it. They do not restore the picture, but they try to find the picture which is most similar. Well, you have to realize what kind of network generated it. Well. Would it be better not to send the picture of the face, but to use a panorama with a richer context? Yes. Now we have only one picture now, but we use likeness. There are likeness algorithms that analyze the frame, and they work rather well at existing databases. And naturally, the more data we get, the higher is the probability of attack disclosure. Maximum security well, you have to realize that users do not often follow the instructions. For example, we say, turn your head right, and they start thinking, where is right, where is left? It takes time, or they turn their head to the wrong side. The easiest and the most convenient likeness is likeness in the non-cooperative mode, because it will help you to check if there is a criminal, and it's convenient. What about sensors? Can we differentiate between the depth sensors? Are they better or worse than neural networks, or do they work together with the neural networks? They use neural networks as well. If you take the deepness map, they go to the neural network. We had good algorithms with 3DK and bad algorithms with the same system, 3DK. Everything depends on how much effort developer put into network teaching. In general, if a developer is good, if he used picture and the depth map, yes, any additional factor raises the level of security. Thank you, Natasha, very well. Thank you. Now, your task is to choose the best question. All of them were good, so I forgot all of them. I do not algorithms, depth map, state of the art. What else? Twins, restoration of the picture. Yes, restoration of the picture. So who asked the question? Kir Bush, are you here? Please go right there and take your prize. If you are online, just know that you are